Central Charlestown Butcheries is a rugby league club that has seen hard times more often than not in recent years. This year, though, they are pre-season champions under coach John Anderson. It's one of the more famous clubs from hereabouts and has boasted some of the world's great names, including the late Clive Churchill. Today, the famous Cutlers have an added name, and it's new to the football world. Charlestown Toyota General Manager Rod Williamson says his company is looking forward to their involvement.
And all the boys are keen and interested and they want to get in there and win. And they're a great bunch of young fellows at all levels. And we thought the way to go, being local, is to support the local team.
Newcastle Permanent Public Relations Manager Paul Scott explained that the Society is concerned that we all must keep our chins up and try and get business forging ahead. Paul showed me the commercial, which will be back on air Sunday night. It'll certainly ring a bell with most people. It's also hoped it'll stir hearts and minds.
Started for a reason. We want to see dreams come true. And the reason that we're here today is just because of you. It's here that we're born and bred.
Paul Scott was enthusiastic about the campaign, which will be extended to other early commercials as well.
When we launched it in '79, we did it as an advertising campaign and we hoped to get a lot of business out of it. We did that, but it did much more for the town than that. And the Our Town concept now is something that we've seen other businesses using the name. It used in columns, in all sorts of things, and it did bring out the parochial pride that the place has in itself, the people have in themselves.
Well, the chips are down. We've had a big smack in the mouth, you might say. What do you hope will be the immediate effect of this?
I think the immediate effect is for everybody here to realise that it's still a great place to live and to grow up and to do business, and it's a matter of get on with that business and get on with living.
I'm sort of semi-happy with it.
In 1887, 130 students crammed into these two rooms and under the stern eye of their only teacher began their education. 100 years later and much has changed. Ironically, through the building of other schools in the vicinity, the number of students at Jesmond Public is almost exactly the same now as it was then. What has changed, however, are the conditions and surroundings students are learning in. Sisters Millie, Emma and Stella say school was a different prospect when they were here together in 1918.
Well, you done learned your arithmetic and your reading and your writing, but what do they do now? Play out in the ground.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
The way you learnt then was better, was it?
Of course it was. They don't learn anything now, only sport.
Celebrations to mark the centenary of Jesmond Public have gone on all week, culminating today with music, stalls, a flyover, exhibitions of period photos and a visit by notable educators, including the State Minister for Education, Rod Cavalier. Mr Cavalier joined the present principal, John Broad, in the burying of a time capsule containing 1980s memorabilia, to be dug up in 50 years' time. From a look at the past, the Minister took a look at the present. At the Shortland Wetlands Centre, Mr Cavalier opened a newly fitted out classroom laboratory. The room will provide a work area for visiting school classes and non-formal education groups wanting to use the giant laboratory of the wetlands. Funding of $50,000 for the work was part of a $400,000 grant to the project from the New South Wales Council of the Australian Bicentennial Authority.
The Classic is best described as a unique combination of steeplechase, cross-country and point-to-point racing. The event held at Rothbury Estate is the only one of its kind in Australia, combining the excitement of cross-country riding with the urgency of racing. 30 teams of 3 riders matched horses and horsemanship over the 1.5 kilometre course. In a relay format of 3 teams, the object of the event was to negotiate the 15 obstacles and complete the course in the fastest time. Winner of the team's event and $2,000 prize money was the Nitwits in a time of 9 minutes 41 seconds. And Olympic squad member Gail Tyndall was awarded the fastest time and $1,000, completing the course in 3 minutes and 1 second, just 1 second in front of her closest rival. It's the 4th year the Classic has been staged in the Valley, and plans are already underway for next year's. But it looks like some riders are going to need a little more practice than usual.
Physiotherapists are encouraging women to try to take part in simple exercise routines. They need not be vigorous aerobics, and the exercises can be done just about anywhere. Physiotherapists from around Australia met in Sydney last week for an international conference, and today a seminar was held in the Hunter. Therapists from Iceland, New Zealand, Canada and Germany combined forces with their Australian colleagues. Most physios believe their role is changing from curing ailments to preventing them.
Traditionally, physiotherapists have been involved in curative care. Someone has something wrong with them, a back, a neck, a sore knee, and we fix them up. But there is a huge area out there for physiotherapists in the preventative area, also health promotion, and helping people out there in the community to self-help themselves. They're the directions that we're looking at.
Physiotherapists believe women should exercise from childhood and make it a habit throughout their lives.
There will be those who want to exercise and who have very special talents and will exercise in special ways. There is a huge population out there who will never be into that. So it's incorporating physical fitness into the normal daily activity. For some it may be around the home, for others it may be just a very simple walking program, which is a nice social thing to do as well as physical.
.440 golfers took part in the 2-day championships, which were held in sunny but windy conditions. Heather Bleek of the Australian club fired a 77 yesterday and 82 today to give her a 36-hole total of 159. She finished only 1 stroke ahead of Manly's Elizabeth Cavell, who also hit a 77 yesterday but an 83 today. Other overnight co-leader was Waratah's Louise Mouncer, who crashed right out of contention with a bad round today. Both Bleek and Cavell were pre-tournament favourites, and both are members of the New South Wales Ladies Golf Union team. Their combined score of 319 gave them the Scratch Teams event, 19 shots clear of the second-placed New England team. The closed Central Northern District Championship was won by Newcastle's Bev Horn with a 2-round total of 165, 4 shots ahead of Gail Gannon of Denman.
The packed public gallery at last night's council meeting reflected the sort of interest this issue has generated. The council decided Alderman Wilson, Saunders and Rugby, along with the town clerk and the tourist officer, join the Lord and Lady Mayoress on the official sister city visit to Newcastle on Tyne. There have been claims the trip represents a needless cost and will bring minimum benefits, but these are claims the Lord Mayor, Alderman John McNaughton, refutes.
If we're going to go into the sister city relationships, we must either do it well or don't do it at all. And as one of the aldermen pointed out in the debate, we don't have to get many tourists back to show a positive return for what we're doing. And I believe that we'll certainly do that. No doubt about it.
Do you feel that you have the ratepayers behind you, Lord Mayor, in this?
Yes, I do. I did it intentionally. I floated this matter last week to give plenty of time for people to come out, and of course some people have said they're against it, we shouldn't do it. But the vast majority are very, very supportive.
Alderman Ashley Saunders raised the matter of the bus terminal in King Street at last night's council meeting, saying several complaints had been received about noise and the traffic problems caused by the coaches when they pull in. Alderman Saunders says the future needs of coach travellers in Newcastle will be closely examined by the council over the next few months.
I guess the options are either leave it as it is, and I think that's totally inadequate, change it to Hunter Street, which some people want, on either a short-term or long-term basis, or indeed to say to Jays and to the coach companies, it's no longer appropriate in either King or Hunter, and we've got to look somewhere else in the city for an off-street terminal.
Also last night, the council decided to stand firm on its decision to let the lease on the pavilion at Bar Beach, currently held by Lloyd Moffat, to go to tender.
It will be our opportunity to show our resolve when the tenders come in, and I certainly hope it's not taken away from Lloyd Moffat for a few $100s. It's something that he has demonstrated his ability as a restaurateur.
The Department of Sport and Recreation, under the control of the former top-flight sportsman Michael Cleary, who has represented this nation in rugby league, rugby union and athletics, has produced a video with the aim of assisting both players and officials in the limiting of serious injury.
This video is the result of a cooperative effort between the New South Wales Government and private enterprise as part of the Sports Safe program. Only a small number of people suffer serious head and spinal injuries on the sporting field. However, they can be severely disabling. The aim of this video is to reduce that small number.
Co-opted to get the message across
Many
is Peter
Australians
Sterling,
enjoy an
Test
active
rugby league
sporting
halfback.
lifestyle. In all sports, there's the risk of getting hurt. Most sports injuries are minor. They usually heal quickly and cause no long-term disability.
The important thing is don't take unnecessary risks. I don't mean that you lock yourself inside and do nothing. Go out, play your games, but do it safely.
Michael O'Connor, dual international rugby player.
Anyone playing competitive sport, professional or amateur, needs to train at least twice a week. Training sessions should work up to the level at which the match is played.
And Test rugby union front rower, Topo Rodriguez.
Do not overload or
the
fatigue the
messages are
muscles.
clear
If you're not sure
and should
about
be
them,
listened to.
a detailed plan of prevention can decrease the likelihood of the occurrence of spinal and head injuries and lessen the severity when they do happen. The first rule of this plan is to match your sport with your body shape. Rule number 2 is, if you're not fit for the game, don't play. Rule number 3 is, develop coordination. Repeated and accurate practice of game skills are essential. Obey the rules. This is rule number 5. Which brings us to rule number 6. Use the right equipment for your sport.
It's a matter of common sense, really. Use what you have and use it to advantage. The best prepared player can still be injured, and the rules in that regard are clear indeed.
Remember to apply the 6 principles we have outlined. Sport should be enjoyed, but
don't stick your neck out.
The red Datsun station wagon had earlier collided with a white Ford GT on the corner of Rawson and Hampden Streets in Curry. After the collision, it careered through the front fence of the house at 114 Rawson Street into the front veranda. The fire brigade, police, ambulance, paramedics and rescue groups raced to the scene. Trapped was a 12-year-old girl and a man believed to be her father. Both were rushed to the Curry Hospital where they are being treated for minor injuries.
Classic is stamping itself as one of the top equestrian events in Australia. It's the only event of its type combining steeplechase, cross-country and point-to-point riding. This is the fourth year some of the best riders and their mounts in the country have made the trip to Rothbury Estate to test the gruelling 1.5 kilometre course. 30 teams of 3 ride in relay over 15 obstacles, trying to complete the course in the fastest time. For some riders, though, it's not a question of how fast, but more a question of trying to stay in the saddle. Winners of this year's teams event and the $2,000 purse were the Nitwits, covering the course in just 9 minutes, 41 seconds. Olympic squad member Gail Tyndall took home $1,000 for the best individual time of 3 minutes and 1 second. And to prove how close the competition was, Gail was just 1 second in front of her nearest rival. Already plans are underway for next year's event, and it's certain there'll be plenty of practice sessions before then.
Scale for many years.
This year's tournament attracted 100 competitors, many of those ranked in the top 10 in the state, and carried cash and trophy prizes to the value of $2,000. The Open men's title was won by the number 1 seed and the state number 4 ranked player Roy Ollier of the Central Coast. He beat outsider David Farley of Raymond Terrace. The Terrace ace had made the final by downing the number 2 seed Tony G, also of Raymond Terrace. However, Farley couldn't keep up his good form and went down in straight sets to Ollier 9-6, 9-5, 9-2. The women's title went as predicted, the top seed Nikki Solon of the Central Coast beating the number 2 seed Jackie Barwick. In the closest match of the championships, Solon won in a close 5-setter after losing the first 2 sets.
In fact, we've got 10 out of the 17 boys in the northern side are locals. Young Stephen Adams, he's the son of a very notable fellow, Bandy Adams, an excellent footballer and only 16 years old. Shane Morrissey is a Tweed boy, he was in the country under 19s, an excellent footballer. Jason Martin, a boy from up at Tea Gardens, a very good halfback, and he's very young too, 16. Stephen Stone from Belmont. Danny McElvey from down at Morisset, a lot of potential as a second rower. Michael Jackson, a wonderful front rower from Foster, playing first grade up there. Stephen Pringle's the hooker, and a couple of the spares, Brad Blake from Swansea. Stephen Hobbs from Whitebridge has been included, late inclusion. and Gary Fairhurst, our Francis Greenway boy. We would expect that our boys would do extremely well again this year.
As I was walking in the ground, one old-timer, shall I call him, said, these kids play better than the Saturday footballers. It's good football, isn't it?
Oh, it's wonderful. They know no other thing than to throw it around. I don't think there was a penalty for illegal play the whole 6 games that have been played so far.
Hello, I'm Janelle Provost. The board of the HarbourSide Haven Retirement Village at Shoal Bay says the Port Stephens Shire Council is preventing them from building a $7 million extension to the village. They say they have some of the money in the bank and a waiting list of 600 people to justify their claim to the 2.3 hectares of Crown and Hunter District Water Board land.
For all the news,
join us tonight
at 6.
The scientific squad spent today sifting through the rubble of the 5 shops, looking for clues and trying to piece together the events that led to the blaze. Charred wreckage and bent girders were all that remained of some of the shops. An accountant lost most of his records, while a coffee lounge and optometrist shop sustained smoke and water damage. The optometrist had only last week been in another places in the Esplanade because of another fire. Firemen say it's hard to put an exact figure on the damage, but it would run into tens of thousands of dollars. Meanwhile, in Lehman Street, Cooks Hill, a 3-level weatherboard home was also hit by fire. The bottom rear section of the house caught alight just before 9 o'clock last night. The blaze spread up the wall cavity, but the front section was saved from further damage. No one was at home at the time.